That's what you need? Oh, I'm just trying to be helpful. We're good? Oh, my bad. It be like that sometimes. All right, y'all. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath. Hope everybody's doing pretty good. Hope everybody had a great week. If not, this is the reset, the refresh, and all that good stuff. So today's lesson is titled The Science of the Spirit. I don't know how long this is, so I'm going to try to get right into it. I will say it's not a continuation of last week's lesson, but I'm going to take last week, this week, probably maybe the next 2 weeks, and I'm gonna put them all in one playlist and put them in the order that is probably more suitable than what it is now. But until then, we're just gonna continue on. So share, comment, subscribe. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate everybody that takes the time out to listen. So the science of the spirit. Before we can get into the science or the spirit, we have to understand how things operate. You know, the Bible tells you got to be mindful of your tongue. You have to be able to tame your tongue because the things that come out of your mouth are very, very significant in how it affects you and other people. So if it says you have the power of life and death in your tongue, that means you have that much power for you and the next person. So words are important then, right? Because that's what's coming out of your mouth, words. No matter the language, they're all still considered words. However, what is a word? A word is usually a combination of letters to form a meaning. And, you pronounce those letters with your mouth, sounds, whatever. And those words are physical and spiritual. And that's the plane or the realm that we're in, a physical and spiritual realm. So when you hear the word spiritual or physical, a lot of times people separate it. So we're going to see a combination of both of them today, which is why I titled it The Science of the Spirit, because we have to break down what is actually science, what is actually spirit, how it goes together. But before we do that, we have to understand everything that they give us or teach us, especially in science, they use words, right? And a lot of times it's words that we don't quite understand if we're not dealing in that field of study. So before we get into it, just remember, the Bible says Jesus is the word, right? So we know it has to carry some spiritual meaning or symbolic meaning when you're talking about words. Now, we're not focusing on the breakdown or the scientific part yet, which we're not going to go that scientific into it, not in today's lesson anyway. But I will say, excuse me, when you're dealing with the English language, obviously that's what I'm speaking, there's a lot of trickery in it. It's a lot of things in it that we don't know, we don't understand, we don't even think about. A lot of times we say stuff and we don't even understand what we're saying. We don't understand why we're saying the stuff that we're saying. So, for example, you have words with double meanings. The word, like, for example, the word bat. You have a baseball bat. And some of these words are spelled the same. Some of them are not. Some of these words are spelled differently, but still pronounced the same. You have a bat that, like a bird, right? You have a baseball bat. You have the past tense of bite, which is bit. And then you can have a little bit of something, right? You have a foot, which is what, 12 inches? Then you have a foot, which is what you walk with or stand on, right? You have a club as far as, excuse me, like what you go to, like a bar or something. Then you have a club that's like a stick or something like that. You have a beam, like a balance beam. You have a beam, like a beam of light. You have so many of these words that have double meanings. So that's one aspect of the trickery, because now the meaning of the word, you have to wait to see the usage. So when you're trying to get the usage of a word, that tells you the intent. Well, someone's heart may be a different intent on how they're using the word. Let's look at an example of that, because you have some words that sound the same and you may think you got the right intent, but the usage is depending on, the word is depending on the usage here as well. Like a hole, I could fall into a hole, or I have a whole lot. That's the English language for you. So this is why when they do what's called a spelling bee, which we'll get into that later, this is why they have to give a definition, because you have whole and you have whole. You have a witch for witchcraft, and then you have witch as in which one. A lot of these words sound the same. Even in the Bible, you have Job, right? But in the working world, we spell it the same, but we pronounce it job, right? But is it ironic that with your job, you may be stressed and go through a lot, and Job was stressed and went through a lot? You have R-E-D, red. You have R-E-A-D, red, right? They're pronounced the same, but we have to wait on how the word is being used to determine. But what if that's how we've been taught to do it, but that's not necessarily changing what's behind the word? Because I can use a word the same way and actually in my heart mean it differently. We'll get there. So you have there, which is theirs. You have there, which is pronounced the same, but it's like over there. And then you have they are, which is the contraction there. See what I mean? That's a lot of theirs. It's a lot of twos, 2 and 2. And number 2. You have where, like what I'm wearing. Then you have where, like where is it at? And not far away from that, you have aware, like be aware. You have be, as in be. Then you can put one more e on it, and you have an insect. So this is what I mean about the trickery. If I want to go and see, that's S-E-E, right? If I want to go to the sea, so I put one of those other words that have multiple meanings too with that sentence. And now that to go to sea versus go to the sea, now that's S-E-A. I can shoot you with a bow and arrow. How is that spelled? Is that B-O-W? Mm-hmm. Or I can bow to the king. How is that spelled? That's B-O-W. So let's see how far this goes when we use words that are a little bit more significant, because these are words that are a bit insignificant. We're casual now. Let's not be as casual. When I wake up in the morning, it's a pretty good thing, right? Everybody want to wake up in the morning. That's a blessing. So to see morning is a blessing, huh? If it doesn't have a U in it. If I put a U in morning, it's pronounced the same, right? Mm-hmm. But now I'm sad. I'm in mourning. If I wake up in the morning, well, which wake is that? Is that wake like W-A-K-E when I wake up in the morning? Or is that wake like when I go to a funeral? Well, before the funeral, a lot of times they have the viewing or the wake. Is that still the same? So I guess to have a wake in the morning may not be as much of a blessing as I thought it was, depending on how it's being used. Now, the person who is bringing this to me, I got to see their intent, because they can say things one way and mean it another. I think everybody's experienced that. Someone who will say things one way and mean it another. This is why a lot of times people say, well, I can't communicate through text. I couldn't tell if you was mad or not. Why? Because it's just words. And you can take it however you want, but it doesn't mean that was the intent behind it. The intent behind words mean a lot when the power of life and death are in words. So moving along, looking at the importance of the words that we're speaking before we understand the words that they're giving us in dictionaries and the words that they're giving us for scientific breakdowns on things. And we're looking at all these different words as it means nothing. But let's see. Now we have compound words, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with that, like book bag. The word actually tells you what's going on. I have a bag with books in it, right? That's pretty basic. A book bag. A birthday. This is the day that I was birthed. So they say happy birthday. That's your birthday. Well, when the sun is going down, you can spell that with one word, sundown. You have a household. That's one word. How many people are in your house? It tells you what your household is. That's how many your house can hold. Airport. Wait a minute. Well, what is port? Port is for portal, right? So there's a portal in the air. Is that why the plane flies on a flat line, which a flat surface is considered a plane? Then you have words, basic words, everything, which means, every one of the things that's included. Babysit, someone to sit with the baby. So let's, once again, skip past the insignificant words now that we are on the same page. And let's look at something that means more than what we take it as. You have breakfast. When you get up in the morning, you eat breakfast, right? But when you're sleeping at night, do you eat in the middle of your sleep? So when you wake up for breakfast, what are you doing? Break that word down. You're breaking your fast, right? So they know this. So they'll say, instead of saying you're breaking your fast, you're going to have to go in there. You can't calm down now. We're going to get some bigger words than this coming up. So when you have breakfast, they understand, they put the word together like that. It's a compound because the compound is you're taking a break from your fast. You're not eating, you're sleeping, you're in spirit mode, you are fasting. But what about weekend? When is the Sabbath? That's on the weekend, right? Break down weekend. Weekend. But if I go to my job all week, those are the weekdays, right? Have anybody ever been in a days? Not a strong one, just a weekdays. So you're going through all the trials and tribulation of your job or your job and your everyday life that's stressing you out through the weekdays. You're kind of in a weekdays. Then you get all the way to the end of your weekdays, which means you've reached your weekend. You've been weekend. God understood that, so he said, I'll refresh you with the Sabbath. No more work. So you don't have to worry about being weekend or being in a weekdays once you reach your Sabbath. That's the importance of the Sabbath. All these are just typical words. So one more word. And we could make a lesson, just on words, but I can't stretch this out with so much. So the last one, before we move on. Therapist. What is a therapist? Therapist is someone who goes and they listen to your problems, right? Let you talk, and then they talk to you. They break down all of your issues based on what you've said, your profile, what they see in you mentally and physically as well. And then they give you some type of treatment, a lot of times medication and things like that, right? But if I break the word therapist down into a compound word, which it is, what do I get?
Therapist?
They're gonna be pissed when they see it, but no. Therapist breaks down into the rapist. I know it. I know people don't want to hear this type of stuff.
Raping your mind.
But what is it that they are raping? What is it that they're taking advantage of?
Ooh, about to scare me now.
Your mind.
Right.
This is why they give you psychology. Well, we'll get to psychology later. This is why they give you drugs to help you mentally. And these drugs are breaking your body down. But what they do is they go through your mind, which is your spirit, we'll see later, and they take advantage of you mentally. So they're called a therapist, and they know what they're doing, because when we get into some of these other words, just remember that I said therapist breaks down to the rapist. and they're raping your mind, which is your spirit. They're taking advantage of you mentally and spiritually, and they do this so that they can get you hooked on all of the medications, which we know God has never prescribed us. Never. So we'll see how they do this, how they take advantage of you in a second. But first, we gotta get somewhere. All of these words, how do I make these words? How do I come up with these words? What do you have to do? You have to take some letters to put them together, right? What is that called? Spelling. Okay, so you have to spell some words, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is spelling then? Well, maybe we should put that in one of these words that sound the same, but normally they're spelled different, or they're pronounced different, but they are spelled the same. In this case, the word spell has more than one definition, but it's only one type of spelling for it, which tells me there's no difference. If I said, well, the word which and the word which is the same, you would say, no, it's not. One has a T in it, or one is this, one is that, or maybe they're spelled, pronounced different or something like that. In this case, if I told you spell a word and cast a spell are the same, you couldn't really debunk that. You couldn't argue that because they are spelled the same and pronounced the same. So let's go to Merriam-Webster. Let's get a definition of what a spell is. So that this is not coming from Brother Real. I don't want nobody to say, oh, he's reaching. He's reaching. I'm going to reach into Merriam-Webster. So the first definition, it says to name the letters of in order. Also to write or print the letters of in order. To write or print the letters of in a particular way. Y'all see this? Mm-hmm. To make up a word. Everything sounds basic, right? Well, that was the verb, but there's a noun as well. And the noun says a spoken word or form of words held to have magic power, a state of enchantment, a strong, compelling influence or attraction. So the word spell has a definition that involves words, right? Both of them do. Both definitions, but one of them is just putting words together so that you could be able to understand what someone is saying. And the other one is, I'll read it again, a spoken word or form of words held to have magic power or a state of enchantment. So we know enchantment and magic is totally against God's word. But why is it the first thing they want you to do is learn how to spell before you're in kindergarten? When you're in pre-K, they're going to give you a list of words. Okay, you see T-O, teach them how to say two. Teach them how to sound it out. Teach them how to pronunciate, enunciate. And what you're doing with those sounds and syllables, you're saying over and over, right? So you can learn this. You're learning how to spell. The ing at the end of spell that forms spelling is nothing more than just the action. That's all it is. So you're just arranging the letters to form a spell. Now, I know that somebody's going to say he's going too far. Please stick with me because I'm going to show you just how far too far is. So, now, just do that. You can just do that. Okay. So, whenever we're talking about spelling, you have to spell words that are in a language, right? And so the language determines how you say the words. But have you ever wondered why language and languish sound very similar? But the word languish means to waste away in English. So language and languish, if you say it fast enough, it almost sounds the same. But one is telling you what the words are about, and what the other one is telling you it just means to waste away. So languish is to waste away, but language is very close. I don't know. I'm still reaching. Let's get the origin of the spelling bee, because everybody that goes through school has to learn spelling words, and they encourage you to be the best spelling that you can to the point they have competitions. And within the competitions, they have where the competitions are called spelling bees, and within the competition, they're going to give you the definition so you can know which word you're spelling, right? So now I'm looking at what is a spelling bee and the origin of it. It's crazy because we're talking about spells and spelling being spiritual and magic. It says the name spelling bee is said to have originated from the Middle English word bene. And it says, which means a prayer or a favor. So you're telling me, I'm looking up the origin of a spelling bee. And I'm telling y'all before I even look this up, that a spell is when you're casting a curse on someone or putting letters together, which basically could be one and the same. And now we're looking at the origin of spelling bee. And a spelling bee is said to have originated from the Middle English word bene or bean. I don't know. I think it's bene, but it says which means a prayer. So how could spelling be a prayer? What kind of prayer is that? That doesn't even make any sense. What type of prayer is that? A prayer in which you're casting a spell? That sounds like you're doing some type of curse or magic. Or maybe roots. Everybody familiar with roots, right? Y'all heard of roots? Well, in order to understand what a word means, what do you have to do? You have to get the root word in the spelling. All right. So the next word we're going to get is right. The word right is obviously it comes from, well, we know what to write is, right? So I shouldn't have to go into that. But the root word in right is writ, R-I-T. Now, what does that mean? Because you got W-R-I-T-E, and then the root word, which is writ. Well, the root word of ritual is also writ. So when I write, I could be performing a ritual because I'm arranging letters together, which is casting a spell that could possibly be a part of a language or be a part of someone's language, if y'all follow me. So when they teach you how to write, how do you write? You got two ways to write, right?
Right.
You got your standard, and then you got cursive, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which one is more important in the world? Cursive, right? So if I'm writing in cursive, that's my signature. And what is your signature? When you break that down, that's you're signing your nature. That's who you are, your nature, your flesh. So back then, your signature had to be in blood. That's why it was sign your nature. So now we know that you can sign your nature in cursive. Your signature could be a curse. Well, we were talking about compound words. If we broke cursive down, what would that be? Curse and I've. But if you flip it, I've curse. So this is not a coincidence. It's too many of them for it to be a coincidence. If I write in cursive, I've curse. Curse, I've curse. Now, if I've curse by writing, which is a ritual, by me putting words together, putting letters together to form a word, which the Bible warned me about my words, because you could be casting a spell for someone to languish away, but you do this by putting compound words or words that sound the same but mean different, and it's confusion. Let's see where all this goes back to, because you have to have punctuation, right? Which is nothing but signs and symbols, right? So whenever you got punctuation, whenever you have all these things, you have punctuation, spelling, certain ways you have to write. All that's a part of what? Grammar, right? So what is grammar? Let's go and see. Because if we go see what grammar is, then it's not me. So I'm going to look, I'm going into the etymology of grammar. And you could go to ETYMON, so that's etymolon, whatever, .com if you want to see for yourself, because this is going to be the proof. After this, then we can kind of move on. So, grammar. It says, the late 14th century Latin grammar, rules of Latin, from Old French grammaire. So it's telling you, in French it was grammaire, and then it says grammar, learning, especially Latin and philology also. So you have Latin, you have philology, and you have French. Obviously, grammar is something that's been around for a while. But let's look at what it says. After it says grammar, it says learning, especially Latin and philology. It says also magic. Why is magic even in the etymology of grammar at all? What is that? What does magic have to do with grammar? If I hear grammar, I'm thinking about words or the correct pronunciation, punctuation. I'm thinking about language. I'm not thinking about magic, but it says also magic. Then it says incantation. And check this next word out. Spells. So I wasn't reaching all alone when I told you what a spell was. Because when we go to the etymology of grammar, it says spells. Magic, incantation, spells. Then it says mumbo jumbo. I can't make this up. Y'all know what mumbo jumbo is? That's what they do in the church when they speak in tongues. It's mumbo jumbo. I really don't know what you're saying. It's kind of like some mumbling and chanting. Why is mumbling and chanting a part of grammar? Because grammar is wicked. And so spells, mumbo jumbo, or chanting and mumbling, incantation, all these things go together. It says 12th century modern French grammar, an irregular semi-popular adoption of Latin grammatica, grammar, philology, perhaps from an unrecorded medieval Latin form, grammaria. The classical Latin word is from Greek, grammatic. I don't know what that is. Then it says the art of letters. Basically, that's what it means. Referring both to philology and to literature in the broadest sense. So when I'm looking at these things and I'm reading the etymology of it, it sounds to me that from the beginning, when we first started learning how to spell, it was wicked. It was rooted in grammar. And when I say rooted in grammar, it was rooted in this. I'm going to read this next part. It says, pertaining to or versed in letters of learning from gramma, which is letter. Then it says see gram. So when it says see gram, the word gram, obviously the root word of grammar, is where it all comes from. Gram, which is magic. It says in Old English gloss of it was staff or something. So it says a much broader word in Latin and Greek, restriction of the meaning to systematic account of the rules and usages of language, is a post-classical development into the 16th century, limited to Latin in reference to English usage by late 16th century, thence rule of language to which speakers and writers must conform, meaning a treatise on grammar is from the 1520s. For the magic sense, compare grammar. So when you're going into the magic side, then you look up the word grammar. It says the sense evolution is characteristic of the Dark Ages. Learning in general, knowledge peculiar to the learned classes, which included astrology and magic. Hence the secondary meaning of occult knowledge. So when you're talking about occult knowledge, you're talking about magic, right? But it all goes back to gram or grammary or grammar. Then it says, which evolved in the Scottish into the word glamour. You want to be so glamorous, huh? Well, I guess when you want to be so glamorous, you got to be thinking, what does glamour come from? Glamour comes from gram. Gramarye comes from gram. Grammar comes from gram. And that word gram means magic. It's clear. It's right here. It says a grammar school originally was a school for learning Latin, which began by memorizing the grammar. The term was put to use in the graded system for a school between primary and secondary, where English grammar is one of the subjects taught. The word is attested earlier in surnames, such as Robertus Grammaticus. So it's basically just naming some people where they took the name from. So a lot of times we're not understanding the words that we're using, and I'm not going to read all of this, because if you continue to go down, they're going to break down grammar, gram, all these things, and show you all of them are different forms of magic. That's where it came from. Now, I know a lot of people can't understand that, but think about how we do certain things like, okay, if I was to make a call all the way across the world, that sounds crazy that I can even talk to somebody on the other side of the world, right? And it's even crazier that I can do it instantly. I can pick up my phone and hit a few buttons, and it's programmed. So what is pro? Pro, right? So pro is good, right? So because you got pros and cons. So if you have pros and cons, and pro is good, and con is bad, so pro is good. So program, gram is magic, good magic. So we have programmed your phone, programmed your TV, programmed your laptop. We've put good magic on all these things through another word that we'll get to later on. So if there is a way that I can use magic and talk to somebody on the other side of the world, wouldn't it be odd that the guy who came up with the telephone, I think his name was Alexander Bell. Y'all know what his middle name was? Graham. I mean, you can look it up and double check, but I want to say that was his name, Alexander Graham Bell. But I guess all of this is just one huge coincidence, right? So I don't know. To me, it just let me see. I just gotta double check. Yep, that's what it says. Alexander Graham Bell. So magic, Graham, we see all that, right? We're gonna move on. Let me see. While we're moving on, did you have some words? Okay. So think about this. You have internet, network, World Wide Web. What are these things? If I enter a net works. There is a web that you can get called in that goes worldwide. Why we don't consider these things when we're looking at how the internet works, or how I don't want to jump ahead. I just say how the internet works. So let's get you know what? I'm gonna add something real quick. I probably put it on there and just forgot anyway. Probably forgot to put it on here. So I think Hebrews 11. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, Hebrews 11:1. Everybody good? Mm-hmm. All right. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's a lot right there. So when you're dealing with faith, you're dealing with a substance, right? What is a substance? That means something is there, something exists, something physical, usually, of things hoped for. And the evidence of it is something you can't see, but it's enough there that there is evidence, right? Let's look at some examples, some different examples, because from the definition, the biblical definition of faith, I see a whole lot of science behind that. It sounds like to me that science has borrowed some biblical principles and then threw the rest of the Bible out. Let's look at the definition of matter. The definition of matter. All right. It says physical substance in general, as distinct from mind and spirit in physics. That which occupies space and possesses rest mass, especially as distinct from energy. Right? So physical substance. And then it says distinct from the mind and spirit. So this is definitely different from the mind and spirit. Why does it say mind and spirit? Because they have enough understanding to know your mind is your spirit, right? So we understand matter is going to take up space. It's going to be physical, right? But it's not spiritual. So that's like the flesh. The flesh. Keep that in mind. So the next one we're going to look at is physics. Let's look at physics because it just gave us a example for physics when it said not physical. Let's look at physics. It says the branch of science concerned with the nature and properties of matter and energy. The subject matter of physics, distinguished from that of chemistry and biology. So now we see when we're dealing with physics, that sounds a little bit more on the side of both physical and spiritual. So it says concerned with the nature, which is physical, obviously, most of the time, and properties of matter and energy. So matter, physical, energy, spiritual. So physics sound like the combination of flesh and spirit, right? Then it says the subject matter of physics distinguished from that of chemistry and biology. Chemistry. That's one of those words that it sounds like it could be pronounced a different way. CH normally makes what sound? Ch, right? Like church, right? Chimney. There's so many more CH sounds. Why isn't it chemistry? Why is CH making the sound of SH? I might jump the gun. So chemistry, CH is making the sound of K. I jumped the gun. But why is chemistry not spelled with a K? Instead, wouldn't it be if you take CH and it's chemistry, wouldn't it be KEM? Or even without the H, some words start with a C and they make that sound like can. Why do they have the H in there? Well, there are certain words that you say with CH that actually makes the SH sound, is what I was getting. Like chandelier. So what if this was chemistry? Would that matter? Chemistry, it doesn't matter. How you say and what you say doesn't matter. Well, we just went through a lot of stuff that shows that it does. So what is ISTRY? Usually when you see history, that's some type of study being done, right? So the study of something. You got ology and history. So if this was chemistry, who was Shem? Shem is one of Noah's sons in which the Israelites came through. So if the Israelites came through Shem and they're studying chemistry, could they be studying chemistry? This is why it says chemistry and biology. Biology is the study of life, right? So the study of whose life? Chemistry, biology, and chemistry. Let's look at some examples of physics that it gave. It says mechanics. It says heat. It says light. It says radiation, sound, electricity, magnetism, and the structure of atoms, which is important because you can't even have a human body without some type of structure of atoms, right? So can you see heat? You can see heat. What does heat look like?
Okay, you see a heat wave.
Those
outside.
are waves.
The rain. Okay.
Those are waves or rays or whatever y'all saying. What does heat look like? Because the sun can be out, and wouldn't the sun produce rays that you would be able to see, but you don't feel the heat? Can you see heat and describe it? You see, we're taught certain things so that we think that we can see heat. So it says heat, right? Let's look at the next one. Light. You can see light, right? Can you touch it? Can you touch light? I'm asking these questions because I want to know.
Depends on what light.
Not a light bulb, because that's a physical structure. That's not the light. So I know that's what we'd be thinking, because when I was putting this together, I said, well, you might can touch light. Then I looked up there and said, that's not, that ain't the light. So can you touch the light? Okay. So it seems like these are attributes of faith, where we have a substance there, yet we have evidence there, but it's not a physical thing that's taking up space, the rest mass. That's why light and heat can go anywhere at any time, right? What about radiation? Sound. Can you touch sound? You touch the speaker. Can you touch sound? But you can feel the vibration though. Ain't that crazy? I can't go and just like, let me touch sound. But I can feel the vibration from sound, right? Because these are properties of faith. And they don't teach you this in science, because then if they taught it, you would be looking at the Bible to see other things outside of physics. When they go outside of the physical or outside of physics, that's called quantum physics. Quantum physics just means beyond the spiritual, right? So, magnetism. You can't really touch it. You can't hear it. But what you can do is take two magnets and put them together and feel but can you see it? Yeah. Is it taking up space anywhere? So now that we understand that there is a difference, we're going to move on to the next one, which is energy. Because we got the physical, we got a combination of both, but now let's get just energy. It says the strength and vitality required for sustained physical or mental activity. Then it says power derived from the utilization of physical or chemical resources, especially to provide light and heat to work machines. So energy is what anything physical has to have to work. Energy is coming in different forms. Can you see energy? Can you smell energy?
No.
Can you touch energy?
No.
Taste energy? No. Can you feel energy?
Yes.
No.
What?
You can feel what energy provides for your flesh. But once again, can I go out there and just be like, if somebody said, okay, for example, all right, for example, Herbalife has energy pills. Right? I'm just saying.
All right, now,
if I take
disclaimer here, somewhere.
All right, I'm not a, what do you call it? Distributor. So I'm just, I've used the products and I like it, so whatever. If you touch an Herbalife peel, an energy peel, tap it. Can you feel the energy?
No.
You have to consume it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everything else that you do, you have to consume it, and then your flesh breaks it down and it receives the product, and that is how you get the energy. So no, you can't go and just feel the energy, because it's spiritual. It's spiritual. Now, with it being spiritual, is energy good or bad? Depends on your source of energy. I just mentioned a product, and even within that product, they call it clean energy. You know why? Because you have several ways of getting energy. Some natural, some not. Positive energy, negative energy. So you have matter, which is the flesh, energy, which is the spirit, Then you put the spirit and the flesh together and you have a living soul. A lot of people hear the word soul and they thinking about the spirit. No, the soul is a combination of both. So that's matter, that's physics, and that's energy. Now, the reason that they do the chemistry is so that they can know how to break down or build up the body. So they study the body so that they can see how to fix certain things. That's what they tell us. But what if they also study to see how to hurt things? So we call it chemistry, with them studying the people of Shem so that they can find out how to target them. So let me give you a quick example. Okay, I'm looking at the people of Shem. Okay, they came out of Abraham, came out of Isaac, came out of Jacob, right? Then they got these laws and commandments that their God pushed, and one of their laws say they should be dealing with witchcraft in any kind of way, right? All right, so we won't call it witchcraft. We'll just call it spelling. You can still learn how to do a spell, right? Didn't you learn how to do a spell? You don't like that question, do you? You didn't learn how to spell. You can't spell? You can't spell. All right, so maybe you need to go back to school, which is another word that I didn't have time to go into. But school, all of these things, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to shut my homeschool down. But I'm just saying, you might want to look at a lot of these words. So anyway, when you're going into chemistry, they're going into the Bible and they say, all right, so we got them spelling at 4 years old. Now they're getting used to this. Okay. The next thing that they got going on is, okay, these people are not supposed to eat certain things. Now they put pork in everything. I remember when they put pork in ice cream. Pork is in this type of cake. Pork is in basically Bojangles biscuits. Oh my goodness. But anyway, we're gonna continue. I'm sorry. I think that was true, depending on which one you go to. So this is what I'm saying. Because they study the Bible, they know how these things affect. They know these things will affect you spiritually through your God. Then they say, we study these same people after we fed them these things for years and years and years. We gave them bad food. We gave them bad water. We gave them cheap food. Oodles and noodles, yes, it's cheap food. We gave them pork, shrimp, crab, lobster. We just gave them all these things, and we studied these people, these Israelites, the so-called black man, to see how it would break them down. Now everybody's popping up with all different types of diseases and things because it is working. When you study something to see how it's going to work and you're testing it out, what is that called? Give me a word for that.
No.
A project. That's a project.
I was doing something else.
A project. So whenever you are testing something out, whenever you're studying something, whenever you're doing research on something, even in school, they call it a science project, right? And they testing these things out. Well, that's what chemistry is about. Testing out how they can degrade and break down the black man and woman. You don't believe it? What is it called? What is that area called where a lot of black people is poor, don't have money? What did I say? The projects. Okay, so I'm not making this stuff up. It's called the projects because they studied all this stuff, and now they're going outside of the projects. Now they're going to different communities because they know no matter where you at now, we studied, we took the black man and put him against the black woman. She kicked him out the house so she could get some free EBT and stuff like that and get a check. Now he's gone, and now it's just her, and she's totally dependent on the government, so we're going to give her government housing. We're going to call it a project or the projects because we know we got to keep our eye on this project versus this project. We gave this project this. We gave this project that. Now we've reached the end of the science project. Now it's time for them to go ahead and say, all right, we can release this to all the so-called Israelites all over the world because we know how it will affect them physically and spiritually. Let's continue.
Church and tobacco station.
Yeah, yes, the tobacco station is a part of that. It's definitely a part of that. And the church was a part of it too. A lot of people don't know that. Church was a big part of your testing projects. And for people that don't believe me, go and research the what was it called? This Tuskegee Airmen or something like that. They had made the movie, how they went and they tested out all the black men. They might have been Alabama, Mississippi, one of the places down there. And they injected them with, I think, syphilis, just to see how it would work, trying to cure them. And you thinking, yeah, that's a good thing. No, not necessarily, because if they find out what will cure you, they know what to keep away from you too. You got to think like your enemy would think sometimes as well. People are always doing the stuff backwards, asking what would Jesus do. We know what he did. It's written what he did. We know what he gonna do when he came back. That's come back. That's written there. Why we gotta ask what would Jesus do? We should be asking what would Satan do? That's the one that's trying to trick you. That's the one that's gonna give you the lies. That's the one behind the science project. What would Satan do? Not Jesus. We know what he gonna do. He done told us time and time again. Let's continue. Let's get so what now? What's going on? Oh yeah, that's a little bit in there. Let's get the next word is the psyche or the psyche. I like to say psyche.
Is it?
I like to say psyche, but some people just say psych. Well, growing up, psych was a trick, right? A play on the mind. I said something, had you thinking or feeling a certain way, and then say psych, or some people say psych, I lied. I don't like that part. So just psych. Psych, I heard psych your mind, which is weird too. So everybody say psych. But when you look up what this word is, it says the human soul, mind, or spirit. Or means it's an option, right? So it could be the mind or spirit because they know that these things are synonymous with each other. So we understand that the psyche is your mind or your spirit, then we got to understand that, hey, they are doing something with this next word, which is psychology. Because OLOGY is the study of something, right? What are they studying? Well, if it's psychology, they're studying the psyche, right? Or the mind, the mental. This is why I don't like psyche. Why I just probably would go with psych for this particular what we're talking about, because the word psych and ology is a compound word. Remember in the beginning, I said we was going to get into words that mattered a lot more or that was more significant. Household is not a great or significant compound word. Neither is book bag, neither is birthday. But psychology is, because there is a study on the psyche or a study on the mind. Whose mind? Well, depends on what you're talking about. Could it be chemistry? If I got chemistry, let me ask y'all something. Have y'all ever heard of chemicals? That's chemicals, ain't it? Or well, if we know that chemistry is chemistry, could the chemicals, also known as chemicals today, could that be for chemistry or chem? Could the chemtrails be for chem and them? Everybody is saying, oh, it's chemtrails in the air and this, that, and the third, they're trying to kill us. Well, those might be chemtrails. Might not be for everybody. Well, how can they target just our people? Well, if they've been doing a study on your physical through chemistry or chemistry and seeing how chemicals affects the people of Shem, the Israelites, and now we see psychology, which psych is the human soul or mind. So psychology is the study of the human soul or mind. If they're studying these same people, now they know how to do things that will affect your mental. Let's look at the definition though. Psychology, the scientific study of the human mind and its functions. Wait. Ain't the pineal gland in the human mind? Remember we talked about that? The third eye and all this stuff. it seems like everything's kind of running together. It says, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. So your mind affects your behavior, right? Certain things on your mind might make you do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. Might make you see stuff that ain't there. What do they call that? Illusion, or what's the other word? Excuse me. You got illusions, you got mirage, you got a few of them. There's one I'm thinking about when you're on drugs. That's the one. When you, like, if you hallucinate. Yeah. So because hallucination is from usually a lot of that is from some type of drugs. Drugs are chemicals, chemistry. You can do whatever you want with that. It said the mental characteristics or attitude of a person or group like all the people in the project. Then it says the mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. So they know that it's mentally, emotionally affecting your behavior, and they know what things to do that. Satan know how to do this, and you think you're seeing something now. This AI technology that's coming out is going to be it's already able to do so much that people couldn't do before. It's going to be able to do a lot. It's going to be to the point where you can only trust in God, because you ain't going to know what's going on. People think it's a big deal now talking about something of clones, stuff like that. That's not even going to be something that's an important conversation. Once this AI stuff get rolling under the CERN project, and they got stuff like Project Bluebeam where they can put something in the sky and make it look like it's there, meaning they could take clouds, because they know how to get artificial clouds, and cover the moon at night. Then they could take Project Bluebeam and put an orange moon in the sky, and people say, "Ooh, that moon is orange. That's a blood moon." You don't know what that is, because they have the technology to do that, and they know what it would do on your mind and behavior. Why do you think people say, when a full moon is out, people act like this and do that? Well, it's because they study people. So if they could create a full moon that's not there, you will, from the psychology behind your mindset, you're going to look and see a full moon, and you're going to act a certain way anyway. It's a lot to this stuff. We're going to keep going. What's wrong?
I ain't gonna go into that.
I'm going to leave it alone. Because, when you go into the full moon, it gets crazy. People do witchcraft based off of the full moon.
I'm talking about the whole thing about why they're doing this, what they're trying to create.
Well, okay, they're trying to create the second coming. They're trying to get a fake Christ return. So when the real one comes, you'll be off guard. You'll already have been serving the false one, which is why I think it's in Matthew where it says, if they say that I'm over here, over there, don't go for that. You know when I get back, excuse me, because when I get back, the sun will not give his light. The moon will turn to blood. Well, if they trying to create a blood moon and you fall for that, it's your fault. If every day you get up and seeing sunlight, it can't be a halfway prophecy. But that's the way they're going to try to give it to you. And they're going to go and they're going to have what we call the man of sin doing all these miracles through the AI technology. And that AI technology, it can do, the stuff that it can already do is already crazy. It's already unbelievable. You think of somebody being able to hack a game or hack social media or stuff like that. That's small time stuff. We're talking on a grand scale. But we're going to keep moving though. Let's get hypnosis. Hypnosis. So, hypnosis says the induction of a state of consciousness in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action. So you're not doing this yourself anymore. This action is no longer voluntary. It's not you. That already sounds like it's spiritual. It says, and it's highly responsive to suggestion or direction. So, meaning someone can suggest something and you quickly do it. Someone can point you in what you believe is the right direction, because your state of consciousness has left the Most High, and it has become a consciousness of the world, a trend. It has become what is the norm. God ain't never been the norm. Walking on water ain't norm. But guess what? People would say, why would you believe that somebody can walk on water? Well, why would you believe that somebody can talk to somebody on the other side of the world? They doing it though. That sounds way more unbelievable when I see ships that weigh tons floating on the water. I see people floating on their back, on their stomach. They got the little, might be Geico, whatever, some kind of lizard that run across the water. We see all kinds of stuff dealing with water. And you're telling me I can watch the Super Bowl live, and that's miles and miles and miles away, because I ran a cable cord with some type of wiring and put it on the back of my TV box. We're going to get into that in a second. But hypnosis is telling you the induction of a state of consciousness. Obviously, you might have more than one type of consciousness then, because we're supposed to be conscious just by being aware and alive. But this says an induction of a state of consciousness, as if there is another type of consciousness, because it is. Right? So then it says its use in therapy. Wait a minute. Therapy. Who performs therapy? The therapist. That was the root word. That was the compound word earlier. That was the compound word earlier. Therapist, right? And I said therapist was the rapist taking advantage of your mind and spirit. Let's see. Because this says an induction of a state of consciousness, so that's your mind, in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction. So your therapist is the one giving you the suggestions, not God. And it says its use in therapy. So when you go to therapy, there is a form of hypnosis taking place. They're telling you this. Stop taking people to therapy. Yes, I said it. Stop. Because they are getting induced by hypnosis. And it says its use in therapy typically to recover suppressed memories. So they're going into deep in your mind. It says, or to allow modification of behavior by suggestion. Has been revived, but it's still controversial. So your therapist can go inside your mind through you, because you're going to be in a state of consciousness that they can suggest certain things and you're going to do it. And when they do that, they can modify your behavior. So they're making changes to your behavior. You think it's for the good because you're only seeing the good changes. We know that there's two trees. The tree of righteousness, where everything is good, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, where you get some good and bad. Well, which tree is your therapist doing or operating with? Well, he's not giving you all statutes, commandments, and prophecies, understanding, milk of the word, meat of the word. He's not doing any of that the Bible says. So we know it ain't the tree of righteousness. So what is the bad? What is the fruit of wickedness that's being planted in your mind whenever they are going in your mind? What's going on? See, that's what we don't know. Because you could never know that, because you're not in your right mind under hypnosis. We're going to continue though. Let's get telekinesis. Telekinesis. So it says the supposed ability to move objects at a distance by mental power or other non-physical means. Non-physical is what? Spiritual. They telling you this. This is spiritual. Telekinesis is spiritual. So it's either the Most High or it's Satan. Ain't no in between. Ain't no lukewarm. So the supposed ability to move objects at a distance by mental power or non-physical means is coming from one of those two, God or Satan. Show me in the Bible where God has people doing telekinesis, and I bet you it's going to be for his will or his purpose. But somebody's saying, I don't feel like getting up. I'm finna move that spoon from there to over here so I can eat my cereal. That's wicked. Because that is a different power. Mental power. And it's not real. It's not that person. It is a spirit that's doing it. That's why you can't just choose what you're doing. Okay. All right. So you watch X-Men. You used to. You might not want the world to know, but it's too late. I don't know. Professor X. He in a wheelchair? Why he don't make his legs move? Why he don't get up and just be like, run and just make his legs move? If he can do all this other stuff. Because it ain't up to him.
He didn't go and get all the counseling. He went to
There
the
you go.
therapist.
He probably went to the therapist. There we go.
That it's impossible.
Why you think they call it X-Men? That's a whole other lesson though when we get into X-Men, because we definitely got some supernatural abilities in the Bible. So let's get to the word of the day. Technology. Technology. Oh, they must be a little behind.
Yeah.
So that must be a joke. Laughing like my granddad. So technology says the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. So what is technology? Could that be one of those compound words that mean a lot? Let's break it down. We know what the ology is. It's some type of studying that's taking place, right? The study of something. So if technology is the study of something, what are we studying? What is tech? What is tech? Well, if I graduate high school and I want to go to college, I have a few different options. If I go to a university, that is for universal studies, meaning I'm going to take classes to learn about a lot of different things. If I say, well, I want to be a carpenter, I might go to a tech school or a community college, which is basically one and the same, to learn a particular practice or a particular field of study. Like I might be a plumber, I might go for carpentry. That's what tech is, because tech is for you to go and study a craft. Tech is craft. Look it up. So when I go to tech school to learn a craft, I might go for less time than I did at a university because I'm not studying everything. I'm just studying on my craft. It's more purposeful for whatever line of work I'm going to do. So a tech school, this for crafts, is where I go to study craft, right? So if tech is craft and ology is the study or the study of, my question is, with technology, what are you studying? Let me ask you a different question. With technology, which craft are you studying? That make it easier? Which craft are you studying? I guess it depends on how I word it. So when we're talking about technology or technical things, we're talking about crafts. Am I saying every craft is wrong? Absolutely not. But I'm asking you, which craft are you studying? So, because you have which and which, right? So am I saying which craft or which craft? Which craft am I saying?
Which craft?
See what I mean? So
Oh my God.
whenever you're looking at these words, they mean a lot, because technology is a form of witchcraft. Because when you go and you look into the things that you can do with technology, not saying all of it, there is a lot of witchcraft within technology. What do you think? Okay, I talked about Project Bluebeam and them being able to bring down a city out of the sky. There's supposed to be New Jerusalem, the second coming of Christ. They're going to do that with their technical studies. What type of craft do you think that is? What school you go to for that type of stuff? Well, I went to tech school, craft school. So once again, I won't even say witchcraft so that I'm not being, I guess, funny and overdoing it. What craft is that? What craft is technology? But technology is its own craft because all the things that you can do with it. Is that what's going on? Well, now in technology, you got to do a lot of programming, don't you? What is grammar? Magic. And pro is good, right? So they got you thinking technology is just good magic. Because remember, Satan versus God, one of those battles happened in Egypt, right? Moses threw down his staff, turned into a snake. Pharaoh had his people throw down theirs, it turned into a snake. The Most Highs ate the snake of Pharaoh. Why? Because it's a greater power. So when we're talking about power, power is a form of energy. Well, energy is a form of power. So what type of power does it take for you to have technology? That's a question that we got to understand. What type of power is that? Well, I don't think that's godly power because he's not telling us to do these things. He's telling us, look, the ways of the world are usually wicked. Let's go see some of those. Let's get Daniel 8:23. We done got a lot of words, so now let's get some word. That's my little. I'm not as good as Google. So what's that? Daniel, I said?
Mm-hmm.
Daniel, what I say, 8:23?
Yes.
I can't find it. Okay, here we go. Daniel chapter 8:23. It says, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. What is sentences? Something you use a lot of words with, right? Dark is usually wicked or deep, right? So he's going to understand those deep words. Those could be prophecies and words of God, or those deep words could be magic. Let's continue and see. Let's see. It says, he shall stand up, right? Then it says in 24, and his power, what kind of power is this? We just got finished talking about power and energy and all that. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. So he get power from somewhere else. It's right here. Now listen. It said his power, but not by his own power, right? So if I had time, I would take you to, I think, Revelations 13. And it shows you where Satan is giving his seat and his power and his authority to this guy. What kind of power can Satan give? You can't say the power means to be in charge because that's the authority, right? Now I feel like I gotta go there, but you don't have to post it on the thing. I just feel like I gotta go there just because I'm talking about it. But I might say, because I know what's my time looking like. I'm gonna base it off of that. Woo. I don't know now. So I'll say this. If I got time at the end, I will definitely show it. Because I want the people to be able to see that this power is going to be in the form of some type of technology. I say AI, been saying it, but this power is coming from Satan. But right now we see, if nothing else, verse 24, that his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. Wait. So this is aimed at a particular people, almost like chemistry, or however you say it. Verse 25. Let's see how he's doing it. And through his policy, so he's going to use laws. He's going to change some laws. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. What kind of craft is in his hand? It ain't Kraft cheese. What kind of craft is in his hand? Because there is a certain type of craft, right? Obviously. It just don't mean, oh, he must be a plumber because that's his craft. No. It says, and through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. That means his works. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. And he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Y'all see that? All right, let's continue. Let's get Isaiah 32:7. Isaiah 32:7. Okay. The instruments also of the churl are evil. So we got evil instruments, right? It says he devised wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. So let me ask y'all this. Who are the poor? It's usually us, Israel. But he said there's instruments also of the churl. I say Israel, I say Shem, chemistry. When you look that word churl up, you know what it says? It says niggardly. I ain't making it up. I'll show it to you right here. It says niggardly. The instruments also of the churl are evil. He devises wicked devices. I almost want you to see. I mean, niggardly. Let's say. I can't keep saying that. Nobody, you know what I mean? We're going to keep going up. Esther 9:23. Esther chapter 9, verse 23. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Hamath, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews, Shem, to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that is the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. Y'all see that? All right, so I'm gonna keep going. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, that he and his son should be hanged on the gallows. So we have wicked devices specifically for the Jews or Israelites. So, I mean, this is all in the Bible. Maybe that's where they got the idea from to continue to do it. I don't know. 2 Corinthians 2:10. All right. To whom you forgive anything, I forgive also. For if I forgave anything to whom I forgave it, for your sakes forgave I it in the person of Christ. That's a lot. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Now it's clear that even Satan is the one that's behind these devices. We're going to stay in 2 Corinthians. We're going to go to 10:4. If Satan is behind the devices, even if they appear to be physical, we know that the root of the problem is spiritual. 2 Corinthians 10:4. It says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Y'all see that? So what we fight with is not physical. It's not matter. It's not spiritual. But mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Y'all see that? So you have to be able to understand your fight is not physical. This is why the battle today that we're showing is with words. Last scripture. So we got Ephesians 6:10. Ephesians 6:10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, notice, which we understand, flesh and blood is not what we're fighting against. We know, even with the previous scripture, our war is spiritual. I'm just going through these words and talking, a little bit about, I didn't go deep into the science, but just showing how even simple words they use in science a lot of times can be used against us. And if we are to do our own due diligence, there's many more words in the scientific field that you can go into and see this. So hopefully someone got something out of that. Now, when it says we wrestle not against blood, but against principalities, against powers. What is that powers? You can't say that that's the people in charge, because it already says that when it says against the rulers of the darkness of this world and principalities. These powers are the spiritual evils that you're going to see more and more through technology on the way. But to end this, I'm going to reread 11. It says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. What are the wiles of the devil? Anybody know what that is?
You said the wiles?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm going to say the wiles of the devil.
like the entertainment of the devil, say something like that, and then like the things of the world.
It is, but on a deeper or more straightforward answer, when it says wiles, we're talking about a method, right? It says the trickery. And also, when you understand that it's talking about trickery of the devil, one of the number one ways that we are tricked by the devil is by looking at stuff lightly, by saying words, writing words, and not even understanding if there's significance in it or not. Receiving words from other people, telling someone to pray for you. You might want to be paying attention to who's praying for you, especially when you're accepting it. Anybody can pray for you and it not mean nothing if you're not accepting it, because you're not yielding your spirit to them. But be careful who you yield your spirit to, because this could be trickery from the devil.
It's crazy because with technology, it's all this social media.
Look in my room, see my bed, see if you see another paper like this. Go ahead.
With technology, everybody get on social media where they have a bunch of friends or a bunch of people, that they don't even know. They have all these followers.
Mhm.
And if they're going through something, I see a lot of people who put up posts, pray for me, I'm going through this.
Pray for
Pray
me.
for my mom, I'm going through that. Thank you for all the prayers. And like you said, you have no idea who is praying for you.
No idea. Now that you're right, because people they put social media as their new therapist now. That's the counselor.
Mhm.
And you put in all your stuff out there, not understanding who or what is involved, because everybody that appears, remember, Satan appears as an angel of light. So you can't take everyone that appears to be godly and say, okay, well, can you pray for me? And then we wonder why things get worse. Definitely want to, man, that's something that everybody need to be paying attention to. Don't let any and everybody put their hands on you, pray for you, as far as you willingly opening yourself to that or accepting it or whatever. Definitely don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to do that. Let me see. I'm gonna hold off on that. But another thing, when you look up that wiles of the devil, it says craft. So that's what I'm saying. Like, which craft is the devil using then? Because I know he's not going to school to be. You see what I mean? So that's the lesson. Hope somebody got something from that. Give me a quick second. I did say I wanted to show what I was saying in Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find it real quick, I ain't going to spend a whole lot of time, but I think it's Revelations. Okay. Revelations 13:1. It says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Well, Revelation 12 tells you that the dragon is Satan. So it's telling you here Satan gave somebody power and his seat and authority. So that power is not talking about control, because that's given in the seat or authority. So this power that he gave, the power that Satan gave whoever this person is, the Antichrist, he was able to take this power or this energy or this craft or this technology and do a lot with it, especially when you continue to read this chapter. When it talks about making an image, walk and talk later on, just think about Project Bluebeam that they've been having for years. Think about AI technology where they can take a picture of someone and make it look real life, make it like real life motion. So we're not far from the times that the Bible spoke on just now in Revelations 13. So that's the lesson. Science of the spirit. You got to understand when you're dealing with the spirit, there's a physical side or a scientific side that still embodies the principles of faith, as well as a spiritual side. And all these things are easier or easily understood by understanding the wordplay from the beginning. Because when you understand the words and understand, at least in English, I don't know about other languages, but in English, when you understand the words, the meanings behind them, and understand spelling, remember spelling bee, grammary, write, ritual, read, all those things went together, even to the point writing in cursive, I've cursed, curse I've. So just keep all these things in mind in your everyday endeavors, because it's very important. Appreciate your time. Like, share, subscribe, comment. I am gone.